the hell do you have there?
There you go.
Whoa! Check this jewel
Check this out. Look at that jewel.
I like that one. Looks like it's missing a few parts.
You know what our video's about today?
No, what?
All right, we're going to talk about 5 common guns that you find in a police evidence locker. We were thinking about different 5 guns ideas, and this one kind of came across. This is Eric and Chad here from Moss Pawn & Gun. We're an FFL located in Jonesboro, Georgia. And as many of you know, we've had the 5 gun series going for quite a while. These videos have been very popular. So without further ado, we're certainly going to keep it going. And I've gotten in a lot of data from different police officers that I've talked to over the years, and a lot of people I've ran into. Also, some of the gun classes that I've taken, for instance, on the Smith & Wesson M&P in the Armorer's course. I've gotten a little bit of information in from some of those people about various guns that are just commonly found in a police evidence locker. Now, what that means is, okay, when a gun is used in a crime, all right, and say the gun is recovered in the process or through due diligence in conjunction with the crime, it's placed into a police evidence locker, all right? At every police station, most police stations, they have a big locker where they lock up all the guns that are considered to be evidence. All right, so that's what's implied and meant when we talk about guns that are found in an evidence locker. Most of these firearms here in this crate that I walked up with are ones that have at one point cleared through the police department that were involved in some type of deal. And then a lot of times what will happen is the police stations will actually sell the firearms off to various FFL dealers.
Well, they usually have like auctions.
And they'll auction them off and that sort of thing. So we're going to talk about the first one, and that's this little Sigma here. Chad, wants to fill them in on the Sigma.
Well, the Sigma is basically a gun that Smith & Wesson developed, and it was very closely designed around the Glock. Just in general, just the entire mechanism itself. And Smith & Wesson was actually sued by Glock, and it's a poor man's Glock. Yeah, I mean, you know,
ghetto Glock,
pretty much.
Ghetto Glock,
poor man's Glock.
You know, now here's the thing. Now, I do like this pistol. I think it's an exceptional pistol for the money. It is a very respectable firearm. It holds a lot of shots. It's very reliable. So in light of that, I can see why many people would buy the Sigma just because of the cost and availability. Now,
well, the quality too.
And the quality, it is a very good quality gun. Now, when I took the Smith & Wesson M&P course, the instructor asked the whole class, he said, who can tell me what the most common gun found in a police evidence locker is in the U.S. right now? And it ticked in my head. I was like, it's got to be a Sigma. I raised my hand and said, a Sigma. He's like, yep, because they're a good, exceptionally decent gun for the money. They work. You know, the older Sigmas, of course, have, you know, really rough triggers. They have a really funky rail system that doesn't lend itself quite well. But the newer Sigmas, like this, the SD9VE, is a much better gun for the money. Just because it finds its way into an evidence locker often doesn't mean it's not a good gun. But there you go. Second one down the line.
The infamous High Point.
Yep.
I think this one's just a regular C9. Yep, C9. This is the 9mm Luger.
Yeah.
You know, but these guns are pretty infamous for being just throwaways. You know, you buy this gun, you know, if you're, you know, in the market for a gun, you know, just kind of on the black market or whatever, as a criminal, you buy this, you throw it away. You know,
shoot somebody and throw it away, or rob somewhere and throw it away.
It's kind of bad to say that, but it's the truth. I mean, it really is. I mean, this is a cheap gun, and they are manufactured, you know, I would say to some of the lowest standards. I mean, they work, but I mean, the materials used are very, very cheap, very inexpensive.
It's a very common handgun. It's very low priced. It's very cheaply made. However, it does work. We did some torture testing a couple of years ago on them, and for the life of us, we could not bust this gun.
And the only thing that finally blew the thing up was H335 in the barrel with a bolt in the muzzle, vice, basically like in a vice, I think, right?
We had to C-clamp it shut.
Yeah, and then we put, what, a red or blue pill in there, and then pulled the trigger, you know, remotely.
It takes a lot to destroy these guns, but, you know, the thing is that it's a gun that the common man can afford.
Yep.
It's a common gun that you see people buy for the first time. You know, when they're a first-time gun buyer, they don't really know, you know, what they're looking for. They don't want to, you know, spend a lot of money. So a lot of people just gravitate to this gun because they look down on the case and they go, oh, it's only $180 or $160. holy crap, that's cheap, I can afford that, and they buy it. They don't think about it. So
well, if it is a gun that you can afford, I mean, to defend yourself with,
right.
You know, if you're just a normal Joe,
sure,
then by all means, you know, buy it and use it.
But a very, very common gun to find in an evidence locker. That leads us to our third gun that you're going to find in an evidence locker all the time, and that's just your standard little 22 rifle. Now, the reason being is because a lot of your old timers, you know, say grandpa or grandma or somebody has a little squirrel rifle they keep behind the you know, door of their back door or whatever, or behind their closet door, and some, you know, jerk who's a relative decides, oh, well, I need to go rob somebody, or I need to go rob a store, or I need to go do whatever I need to do. Well, I know old grandpappy has a gun behind his closet door, and they'll go steal their grandpa or grandma's 22 or something. And believe it or not, more times than not, you look in an evidence locker and you're going to find little 22 rifles, everything from single shots to Ruger 1022s to Model 60s, and they're just common because they're commonly stolen.
Well, not only stolen for the purpose of using it in a crime, but, you know, some folks will just steal a gun to pawn it, you know, and then use it for drugs or whatever the case may be, whatever their vice is. And then the gun might be reported stolen over time, and then it gets, you know, put into a police locker, and that's where it sits for who knows how long.
And one thing too, the Model 60 in general is one of the most mass-produced 22 rifles in the United States. So there's a lot of Model 60s floating around, and unfortunately, in some cases, a lot of them are used in crimes. Now, also, a lot of the modifications done to evidence locker guns are usually highly illegal. A lot of times, you know, they'll saw stocks down on them.
They'll cut
the barrels down, and they'll make little short choppers out of them.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of a short chopper, that brings us to our next gun here, the infamous SKS Tactical model.
Yep.
You know, with the folding stock and whole 9 yards. So makes it a little bit more compact to tote around, you know, in a trench coat, that sort of thing. I mean.
The guns in general, you know, were available, you know, back in the 80s, mid 80s to late 80s, before the Clinton ban really came into effect. The SKS was a very common gun that could be had at hardware stores and discount shops for $79. Very, very common guns. And of course, with all the accessories out there, you got folding stocks, you got high cap mags, you got all these other things. They do tend to find themselves in those types of circles where, you know, criminals will get them and they'll try to convert them and use them for things and whatever. But another popular gun, I know this is a 5 guns, but you always have to throw in a wild card, like the little Draco and PAP pistols, the little AK pistols. Those things wind up in evidence lockers all the time, and most of the time that those guns wind up, like this SKS or an AK or even like an AR or something like that, they usually end up in police lockers when it involves some type of a drug raid. It's normally okay. They shake down the place, hub, go in, everything's done, and then these guns just happen to be on site and they get seized for connection to usually to somebody that's not supposed to own a gun anyway, so it gets seized.
Well, a lot of these guns are on the black market too, so they're legal guns as they sit, you know, for the most part. So.
Correct. So the other type, moving on to number 5, is going to be like your Saturday night special, your throwaway gun, your El Cheapo, something that, and they usually are in very, very poor status of disrepair, like this little gun here.
Little INA, you know, little Tiger.
Yeah. They usually have duct tape grips in there, and they have parts that are rigged and jerry-rigged and welded and duct taped, and, you know, like the boxes sitting in front of me, these are a bunch of throwaways, like your little crummy Bursas that have been rode hard and put up wet and missing parts, your AMT backups, you know, your El Cheapo Jennings. I mean, those guns end up in evidence lockers all the time.
Little 5-shot 38, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like here's an old Colt police revolver. So you'll find old firearms, you know, in evidence lockers all the time. There's a few places that I commonly do business with kind of on a regular basis, and they get evidence property rooms in all the time. And you would be surprised how many random property rooms will have something like an Obrez Mosin that's cut down to a pirate pistol length, or they'll have a broom handle Mauser that somebody took a hacksaw and cut the barrel off to an inch long. I mean, literally, there's some real hack jobs that get done when someone is not concerned about obeying the law and they're just going to do whatever they want. They'll come up with some Mad Max crap. I'll tell you, I cannot count how many times I've seen random single-shot H&R shotguns cut down to like 5 inches. They'll chop down the fore end and duct tape it and cut that son of a bitch down to about 5 inches.
Well, same thing with the old school doubles, you know. Same thing, cut it off pretty much right there at the forearm.
Yep.
and then cut the stock off, and then tuck it in your pocket or whatever the case
Yep.
may be, and you got a blaster. I mean,
That's
you know,
it.
that's Mad Max all the way.
That's it. So guys, with this video, we mainly just want to kind of shed some light on the kind of things that are encountered in evidence lockers with the police departments and stuff. Now, we're certainly not implying that these guns are any better or worse or bad or shunned upon just because of their association. A gun is a gun, and remember, guys, that a firearm is only deadly in the hands of somebody that wants to use it for such purpose, okay? Just because Smith & Wesson makes an affordable handgun doesn't mean a criminal is going to buy it. Just because a High Point is inheritedly cheap doesn't mean you're a criminal if you buy it. It just means that it's an affordable gun, it's a mass-produced gun, and yes, bad people occasionally get a hold of certain guns, and these are, from what we found, the most common guns to be found in an evidence locker.
Well, I mean, you know, it's pretty much just the facts that are out there. So
it is. It's the facts, guys. But look, if you guys have some cop buddies, or if you're a cop, you're watching this, tell us about the coolest thing you've ever seen come through an evidence locker, whether it was a really cool gun that was very valuable, and you were like, holy crap, how did this come into an evidence locker?
Or the kitchen gunsmith special.
Or the kitchen gunsmith special, where the stock is cut in pieces and all this crazy crap, and it was just the most insane thing you've ever seen. So if you guys have an example of a crazy evidence locker gun that you've seen in your travels, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. But we appreciate you watching this video. We have many more crazy subjects on the way.
Many more.
Have a good one.